smoking too, sipping and roasting. Yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all.
Well.
That sounds like a party about to begin, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Welcome to show number 392. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
Love those things.
I was waiting for you. You usually chime in there. And welcome to the show. Now, we have a guest. I won't go so far as to say a special guest, but we do have a guest on today's show. And he's really kind of pod crashing, except that Ian knew he was coming in, even though I didn't. So it's not really a pod crash.
It's a half a pod crash.
About a half pod crash. But our good friend Alan Denny is here. Welcome, man.
It's a pleasure.
It's always nice to have you when we're sampling stuff that we think you might like. And we have some things you might like on the menu today.
No IPAs?
Yeah. Oh, no, there'll be IPAs, but let's see where we go with this. For beer tasting... Oh, yeah. For beer tasting, we'll be trying the Heater Allen Brewing Company Gold Dot Helles Lager. They are from McMinnville, Oregon. I don't think we've had anything from Heater Allen Brewing Company.
I don't know the name at all.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. Now, this one, from Southern Star Brewing Company, Conroe, Texas, right up the street from us. We'll be trying their black IPA called Loki's Lies.
So digging into
the Disney, Marvel universe there. Yeah. And then from Imprint Beer Company, another one that I don't believe we've had a beer from before. They are from Hatfield, Pennsylvania. We'll be trying their barrel-aged Imperial Stout called Moussetropolis.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bad at all.
Is it spelled moose like
Mousse Tropolis?
Like
Moussetropolis, yes. So we'll look forward to that. And from Panama, the Don Pancho Origenes Reserva 8-year rum, which is
a beautiful bottle.
This bottle right here. It does look beautiful. That looks like an expensive bottle.
Stately looking bottle.
I absolutely love it. So we'll be doing that, and we'll be doing, of course, our normal stuff here on the show, including, now I don't know what we're going to do about this. The title of today's show, and one of the things we were going to be covering, is 10 things every cigar smoker should know. But I noticed that when the video went up on YouTube of last week's show, the title was 10 Things Every Cigar Smoker Should Know.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know if some confusion happened there, but I will say it wouldn't be the first time we titled the show something and then failed to cover that during the show anywhere. So today we will, in fact, cover 10 Things Every Cigar Smoker Should Know. And if for some reason we don't...
It's almost as if people working on this show have been drinking.
Yeah. If for some reason we don't cover it, we will continue to name each show 10 Things Every Cigar Smoker Should Know until such time as we do cover it. So this could last for a while.
This could be a series.
But that could actually be fun to get to. We'll be getting to our beverage of mystery here in just a moment, but we do want to say a big thanks to last week's special guest, our new Smokin' and Toastin' wine expert, Thomas Marsala from 13 Celsius. And let me point out, he didn't replace our existing wine expert.
No, Mark Burrell is amazing.
He's just here to augment.
That's right.
And he brought in some very interesting wines. If you haven't checked out last week's show,
personalities when it comes to the types of wine that they like.
For sure,
it's very interesting to get a different perspective on it.
And the places where they are in charge of the wine are also very different in terms of the vibes of those restaurants and bars. So that's something we'll be, looking forward to having both of them on. Maybe we could have both of them on, have a dueling wine expert show. That would be kind of funny. Just play the little banjo music from Deliverance and have them keep pouring wine. Can you play that on the ukulele?
On the ukulele.
It almost sounds like more scary on the ukulele than it did on the banjo.
I was like getting it reminds me of the old Bugs Bunny, where he has the bomb rigged to the one note.
Yeah.
And then the person playing it always plays the wrong lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Bugs Bunny keeps playing the wrong note at the end.
Well, it works for me.
Until, of course, you have somebody saying, no, it's played like this. Boom, of course.
And then,
We'll get to our drinking fact here in just a few minutes. Our drinking fact teaser is Budweiser responsible for child abuse.
Oh, what?
Yeah, could be. So we'll get to
I
that.
don't even know what to say to that.
We'll get to that in a few moments. Plus, as always, we will bring you the most popular segment on our program, a little thing we like to call Drinking News, which will happen in the second hour of the show. And our Drinking News teaser headline for today, the thing I have in common with an Olympic athlete. And we'll get to that coming up as well. We'll also talk to you about some cigars to watch for and where does craft beer stand in 2024. You hear a lot of gloom and doom about the craft beer scene. That breweries are closing, that the beer consumption is shrinking. But the truth is a little bit more nuanced than that.
Well, they always talk about how craft beer sales are slowing down, and that's a doom thing too. But the truth is they're still growing. It's just that they're not growing at the same percentage they were last year or the year before.
And, I will admit to being a capitalist, but one of the things that frustrates me about capitalist culture is there always has to be growth. You can grow to like hugeness, but then if you have a quarter where you're flat, it's like, oh no, the sky is falling. It's like, well, you're still huge. You're huge way up there, and then it's the same like with the craft beer thing. It was never going to keep growing as fast as it was for a while. And even if it tapers off slightly, it's still a much bigger portion of the beer universe than it used to be.
Right. We've basically gotten to the point where we have gone through so many explosions of, okay, we like IPAs so much, we're going to make them ridiculous. We like stouts, we're going to make them ridiculous. We got sour beers, we're going to make them ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole thing, like the dust is settling a little bit. People are figuring out what they really like and what really is going to sell.
And we're also seeing
and it's not always just an IPA, by the way.
Right. We're also seeing an increase in things like lagers. We're seeing an increase in lower calorie, lower carbohydrate beers, even non-alcoholic beers that are coming from craft breweries. So some of which are pretty good and some of which are not. Speaking of things that are sometimes pretty good and sometimes not, I think it's time for a segment we've been doing on the show here for the last, the
beverage of mystery.
The past 6 months or so, maybe. And the beverage of mystery is where one of us will bring in a beverage of some sort. Sometimes a beer, sometimes a wine, sometimes a seltzer, sometimes a canned cocktail, sometimes none of those things. But the only person who knows what it is the person who brought it in. Today, that's me, although I do understand Alan brought a potential beverage of mystery with him as well, so maybe we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But for now, I had already poured this one and set it in the fridge.
That's when Alan brings in it's a beverage of questionability.
That's probably good. Yeah,
it's not Malort.
In fairness, some of the ones we bring in are beverages of questionability
this looks
as
and
well.
Smells lemony.
Mm-hmm.
Like right off the bat.
You do get a little of that on the nose right off the bat.
It doesn't smell like cleaner, though, so that's a good sign,
yeah,
right?
Lemony, but not lemon pledge.
Right.
So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So you're right. A lot of lemon citrus on the nose. Let's see what you think when you sip it.
I think margarita.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Like
Agreed,
margarita. 100%.
This is a
There's a little
buzzball.
salty to it.
It is not a buzzball.
It's not a buzzball.
Well, some people, like their margaritas with a salted rim. I don't do that in particular, but some people do. Some people love that.
Yeah.
My wife loves extra salt. I always get no salt.
I said no salt.
This is not a bad margarita thing.
No, it's not.
It doesn't have a bad aftertaste.
No, it doesn't. It's a little sweet.
It's a little sweet, but also if you had it on ice,
Yeah.
especially the angry little like Sonic ice or whatever.
What makes ice angry?
All right, so now it's time to answer that question. Is that a beverage of mystery in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? This is, and I'm sorry I crushed it a little, but it's the Jose Cuervo Sparkling Margarita.
Ooh.
Hey guys, not bad.
Horrible.
And it's 8%, by the way. I actually think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it even says serve over ice to best enjoy. So maybe they expect you to dilute it just a little bit.
And I also think ice cold would be even better. I mean, this is cool, but it's not
8%.
Yeah, 8%. By the way, I did.
And it comes in a skinny can, so you feel like you're losing weight while you're drinking.
Exactly, which is important because psychologically, that's half the battle, right?
That makes my hand look huge.
I got a 4-pack of these, so I poured one for my wife the other day, and she thought it was actually pretty good. And she's not easy to please when it comes to margaritas. Yeah, so she has very exacting standards.
So I would say, to be honest, it's nice that a big company is doing something that actually tastes good because we don't always get that. We get a lot of that terrible aftertaste and stuff like that because it's Jose Cuervo, it's probably something you could find most places.
I would think that's true. Jose Cuervo is simultaneously responsible for, I think, some of the most forgettable tequila in the world and my absolute favorite tequila in the world.
La Familia.
It's also the cause of many, many what we call tequila incidents.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to describe it. Sometimes people ask me, have you had tequila? And I go, well, I went to college. So it's like, come on now. You know this. But I actually think this is pretty good.
I don't even have to have a lime and salt with this. So
I actually think it's pretty good, and this would be really good, like over ice or just fresh out of a cooler where it's just absolutely ice cold on a summer afternoon.
I would say if you're looking for a margarita that you can just bring with you and dump into a glass, this is actually a pretty solid offering. This might be one of the better ready to drink margarita drinks
I think it is.
Ever tasted.
I think it is. And so there are some others that we will try, I'm sure, in future.
We did the Buzzballs one a few weeks back, and while we found the margarita one was one of the least offensive. This is better.
You know what I saw when I was in Specs, my favorite liquor store?
Big Balls.
Yes.
What?
I was in looking for a beverage of mystery and wound up with this. But what I found when I rounded the corner to the craft or canned cocktails aisle was Big Balls.
Big Balls.
And it was a buzz ball. Yes, it was a buzz ball that was like this huge.
It's like a fish bowl.
No.
Yeah. It's like, I'm like, oh my God. If you showed up to a party and you walk in and there it is with just straws in it, do you stay?
No, you need to put it on a hat with a straw.
Can you imagine how strong? I mean, some of those were kind of strong.
They were all coming in at 10 to 14%. Is that?
Yeah, 15 on one of them.
Buzzballs are like effective.
There's a reason they call them buzzballs. Yeah. But anyway, Big Balls. I thought that was a product. There was no.
I saw that AC/DC song.
I saw that when I was picking out the Buzzballs for that show, and I wanted to grab one so bad, but I was like, no, we already got plenty of this.
Yeah, you got,
and there was no like different flavors in the Big Balls. So.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I just thought that's interesting.
So that's an aside. Jose Cuervo margaritas, not bad.
Sparkling margarita. So it's somewhere in between like a seltzer and a canned cocktail is how I would. I wouldn't
take this over a fresh margarita, but hey, man, if you just want to toss a couple cans in your pack,
I would take it over some fresh margaritas that I've had. I mean, seriously, because it depends how good the margarita is. A better margarita, no, of course it's going to be.
Yeah, but I mean, we're in Texas. You can get great margaritas so many places.
Well, that's true. It's kind of like where can I get good Mexican food? It's almost like where can you not get good Mexican
food?
Right.
And here's the deal: in Texas, if you go to a place that doesn't serve liquor, don't get the margarita.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Do not get the margarita.
Because it's going to be wine-based.
Yep. It's not going to be good.
And at least with this, I think we're pretty certain there's some Jose Cuervo in there somewhere. So there's
made with Jose Cuervo tequila, triple sec, natural flavors, and certified color. It's a good thing they use certified color because if they didn't certify it, I'd be very upset.
I hate those uncertified color drinks. Those are problematic.
Well, it's better than most of the margaritas you get at like chain restaurant places.
I would say that's true. Yeah, right. That is very Kool-Aid-ish.
Yeah,
you're right. So a little sweet, but very drinkable, and one of the better beverages of mystery I think we've had.
True.
So, Alan, we're starting the show strong with you.
Man, let's see what happens the rest of them.
All right. We'll come back to see what Ian had an opportunity to smoke this week, plus more to come as we tell you about the 10 things that every cigar smoker should know. It's Smoking and Toasting. We might do that. We might not. We might just keep that as the title for the next several months. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Welcome to show number 392. Our semi-invited special guest today is Mr. Alan Denny. Welcome to the show.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
And we have our latest feature that we've incorporated into the program, and it's time for it now. So, Terry, our announcer.
And now it's time for another Smoking and Toasting Drinking Fact.
Okay, that fanfare was not only cheesy, but really loud. I don't know why.
That was loud.
All right, here's your drinking fact for this program. The creator of Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, has a very strange tradition. As the world-famous beer company has been passed down through the generations, it was a ritual that a few drops of the king of beers, Budweiser, was placed on the newborn son's tongue before they had even had their mother's breast milk. Feeding an infant beer, I think that qualifies as child abuse.
That's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy, but apparently it is a true fact. So there you go. Today's drinking news, true fact. I cannot get over that fanfare. Every time it makes me laugh. Every single
That's a
time.
good fanfare.
Ian, I assume you had opportunity to smoke something interesting this week.
Yes, I did. I stopped by Casa and sat there and had myself a cigar with Alan here. I picked up a San Luis Rey Carinas Ultramar meaning extra aged.
Ooh, I don't think
This
I know
is brand new.
cigar.
It was on
Yeah.
that brand new end cap there. And I picked up the Robusto at 5x50, a Nicaraguan wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and a Nicaraguan and Honduran filler. The appearance on this milk chocolate brown wrapper, leathery, smooth, and oily. Very few veins, medium firmness to the touch overall, and the SLR Carnias band and Ultramar band right underneath it. Pre-light sniff on this sweet, rich earth, mocha, and tea leaf. Pre-light draw, I used a clip. Had an effortless draw to it. Sweet, creamy mocha, rich, spicy earth, tea leaf, leather, a little bit of raisin. Left a little tingle on the lips as well.
Mm-hmm.
The initial light.
Oh, here we go.
MPB makes me feel fine. I'm leaving it at that.
And it's so appreciated that you stopped there.
Peppery pepper punch with pepper and nuttiness.
Okay.
That's what happens right off the bat on this. Leathery and toasty 2. Retro Hale's big black pepper. This will make your eyes water just a little bit if you go at it too much. The first third of this, pepper and sweet, loads of black pepper balanced by sweet, creamy mocha and raisin nuttiness, and leather run adjacent with toast and cedar in the background. Retro Hale is peppery and with cedar and a hint of sweetness. Solid ash, perfect burn. The proposed pairing with this dark beer, maybe a porter stout or barley wine, or something like an espresso martini. This thing was a big cigar.
I like espresso martinis.
Yeah, that's right. Massive plumes of dense smoke continues to deliver a complex bouquet of flavors, ramping up from medium to full strength. The Retro Hale is peppery and cedar with a touch of sweetness. Solid ash, perfect burn. The last third of the cigar, sweet raisin, nutty, and a bready kind of note move forward, and tangy leather on the back of the palate round out the experience. Retro Hale is peppery and toast with cedar and a hint of sweetness. Solid ash, perfect burn all the way through the cigar. Comes in at $9.50. It's a pretty sweet spot for a cigar. I give it a 5.5.
Nice.
This was punching just above. The burn was perfect. I really enjoyed every bit of this.
And just in case you're new to the show, our rating scale for the cigars is something we call the price to quality index. And it's a 1 to 10 scale, but if it scores at a 5, it means you got exactly what you paid for. So 5.5, 5.5 is means it punched above its weight.
I
a
wouldn't
little
have batted an eye if I paid $11 for this. It was fantastic.
Nice to know. All right, I'll tell you about my cigar for this week coming up. Plus, it's time to start tasting, and our first beer is going to be a Hellas Lager from Heater Allen Brewing Company, their Gold Dot Hellas Lager. We'll be right back with that. It's Smoking and Toasting.
It's going to be Hellas good.
Nice. Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And I will admit that on this program, we have been known to be a let's just say a little dismissive of some of this celebrity beers and celebrity spirits. And don't get me wrong, there's been some good ones. There's been some good. Remember the AC/DC beers, Ian? That we did? Those were fantastic. And there's been a few others that have been quite
Iron
good.
Maiden Robinson's collab is real
And
good.
quite frankly, George Strait's Código Tequila, that's pretty good stuff. Yeah. Well, there's another celebrity whiskey that's coming out, and I'm finding myself inclined to just like not bag on this one at all because I just like the idea so much. Discover the taste that embodies his raw energy and unparalleled creativity, is the quote. A new whiskey company has been launched in the name of Dimebag Darrell.
In the name of Dimebag
It's
Darrell.
actually, his wife is involved in this, so it's got legit connections. His widow is involved in this, so it's got legit connections to him. But yeah, the Dimebag Darrell whiskey is going to be on its way, and of course there'll be probably like amps and guitars and stuff as well down the road. But yeah, it's founded by his widow, Rita Haney, and Blacktooth Beverages is supplying the actual whiskey, but it's going to be
Blacktooth Beverages.
yeah, it's going to be. I'm not familiar. Are you?
I don't know, but when you call it beverages, I'm a little sketched out by that.
Well, but it could be just like a distribution company that's involved, like a
True.
Brown Foreman or something like that, right?
Interested to know where it's made. I don't want to know more about it.
Well, he loved a cocktail called Blacktooth. Was the name of the cocktail, apparently. Essentially a shot of whiskey, typically Crown Royal, with a drop of cola, giving it a metal black color to help it go down easier. And its name comes from Sweating Bullets by Megadeth. So this is Blacktooth Beverages has been created and will serve a range of Dimebag-inspired drinks, promising a taste that embodies the raw energy and unparalleled creativity, there's that quote, of the metal great. So there you go. Something to think about, yeah.
I didn't know that was coined from. I mean, that's neat that they named it after something in a Megadeth song.
Apparently so.
Megadeth was just in town.
Were they really?
2 nights ago.
I love that song too.
Well,
I did not get to go see
I bet
them.
the show wasn't loud.
Yeah, or
Megadeth
fast.
Or fast.
More fast.
Well, anyway, that's something we'll be on the lookout for. If we can find it, we will, on the shelves, we'll definitely purchase some and bring
So
it
it's
in to
going to
try
be like
here on the
ready to
program.
drink cocktails.
I understand there's supposed to be a whiskey. So we'll look forward to
It'll
trying
be the whiskey that you're supposed to put a drop of cola in, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would imagine they'll do canned cocktails and everything else. But according to the article that I saw, so here's a picture of the spirits. So I'll show that to the camera here.
Okay.
I don't know if you can.
It looks
see that.
pretty metal.
Yeah, it looks pretty metal. So it's something to be interested in. So, like I said, if we can find it, we'll buy it, we'll bring it in, we'll try it, and you don't have to, unless we say it's good, and then you can go out and knock yourself out.
Contributing to sales. There are some fans out there of his that had no clue what whiskey was coming out.
That's
They're
right.
looking for it right now.
And here we are now helping to influence sales. It's part of what we do here at Smoking and Toasting. We are not embarrassed about that at all. In fact, sometimes we influence sales even before the show is posted, because after we record, if we try something we really like, Ian or myself or possibly both of us will stop and get more of it
We'll
on the
stop
way
and
home.
get it, yeah.
So
I've done that a number of times.
we influence sales on a lot of different levels. So this is
on a quick side note, I think
Yeah.
I solved the background music problem.
yeah.
For some reason, I think my phone was playing it, even though I didn't have an app open.
You were playing the Cardi
Is
B
that what it
songs.
was? I've been going
Well,
over.
it was actually
I've been going over this.
it was
entire
actually very
board.
cool jazz. It was Charlie Christian.
was.
And I was like, what is going on here? And I looked down and it was like, my phone's playing, but I don't have an app opening, so I'm restarting my phone.
Okay, but sometimes that happens. You had something, a web page maybe that had it on it.
I mean, Charlie Christian.
at least you have good
At least
taste.
I can
You
stop
know what I
looking.
mean?
At least I can stop looking over the board.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
Charlie
what is
Christian,
this?
Cardi B. It's just six
Yeah.
of one, half dozen the other.
Well, they're
right?
going to be doing a collab real soon.
That's so
I started to
bad.
say I'd pay money to hear that, but no, I don't think I will. From Heater Allen Brewing Company in McMinnville, Oregon. I'm not sure where McMinnville is. Maybe some of our Oregon listeners can send us an email, st@rfcmedia.com, and let us know where McMinnville is.
So it says you deserve a gold dot, and there is a Gold
There's
dot right
definitely
there
a
on the
gold
can.
dot right there on the can. It's an interesting can because it's kind of minimalist. you know?
Yeah, it's called Luxurious Hell's Lager. Exquisitely drinkable and thoroughly satisfying lager beer. Water, malt, hops, yeast, time, and labor are the ingredients. So 16 coming in at 4.9%. Has anyone tried it yet?
So I think Alan just took his first sip.
It smells good.
It's different.
I kind of like it on first sip.
Oh, it's creamy.
Yeah,
It's not what I expect from a lager.
almost more like a cream ale.
It's not crispy. It's creamy. It's super good.
It is.
Now let me ask you this question: What is
There's almost a slight citrus on the aftertaste too.
yes? What is the correct pronunciation of Helles Lager? Helles. Is it Hells? Is it Helles?
I might be Hell's. What might be Hell's?
Hellas.
I don't know.
That has
That's
to be
a good
Hellas.
question. It's like I go with
You
either
would
one.
you would think we would know, but no, we don't. And so
We're much more concerned with the inside of the can than the outside.
yeah, this is true. Although there are some cans that the outside is more interesting than others.
Well, that's true.
But I think you're right. This is really good. It has so after the finish, I do get a little bit of hoppiness, like a good crisp lager will often have on the finish. But man, when this is right on your palate, when you first take that sip, it is creamy as it can be.
I had taken a sip of the. I had just finished my Shiner, my show beer Shiner.
Yeah.
Man, it's vastly different.
Oh, yeah,
than
no question.
Shiner when you take a sip.
No
vastly
question.
different.
Alan, what's your take on this?
So my first sip, I was like, because this wasn't the traditional lager that
Not what you expected.
Yeah, it wasn't what I expected at all. But yeah, it's fantastic.
it doesn't have any of that sort of Bavarian lager type maltiness to
There's
it.
a very mineral water kind of crispness to the very end of it. Like that's the kind of crispy it has. It's not a lot of crispy, but it's like a mineral water. Like if you get a San Pellegrino or
Right.
what's the other popular one? The Perrier,
Perrier,
kind of
yeah.
thing. It's very minerally, and then the aftertaste has a little bit of citrusy kind of thing going on. Maybe a lime zest or something.
It says exquisitely drinkable and thoroughly satisfying lager beer.
It's pretty nice.
And it also says on the front luxurious.
Yes, I bet.
lager.
Now, this is nice in a can, but I'm willing to bet this is marvelous
If you get it out of the tap.
out of the tap.
Yeah. Oh, I bet
I
it
bet
is.
it's absolutely
Extra
marvelous.
luxurious.
Even right, extra
Right,
luxurious.
even more luxurious.
I dig it. I kind of
Yeah, it's a nice beer. Good job, guys.
yeah. I got to say,
It's not a Hell's Lager like I don't think I've had any Hell's Lager that has that kind of creaminess up front like that. Allstat makes one that's really nice, but it's very crispy and traditional. Who's the other one? Someone makes a nice. The same people that make Fireman's 4 make a really good one.
Real ale.
Real Ale makes a really nice one. There's a few others that you can get like pretty much all the time, but they don't. This has a little different profile, especially right up front.
It actually reminds me a little bit of a Buckle Bunny cream ale from
Because
Eureka.
it's got that creamy and a little bit of sweet right up front. Which, by the way, that's a go-to for me. That Buckle Bunny is so good.
Oh, and the Buckle Bunny citrus, even better.
You like that
It's
one
got
better?
that little bit of citrus zest on the palate. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Well, a lot of people have sort of weighed in on the state of the craft beer industry. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the program, but I wanted to just bring you some actual numbers here. By 2019, the craft beer industry, the growth that had accelerated over the years kind of leading up to that, it was already turning into a more mature market with steadier growth. It was a 4% growth rate in 2019, while the industry overall was declining by about 2%. So you had craft beer growing faster than the industry itself was declining. But the pandemic came along. It hit the sector pretty hard. Being small businesses by definition, craft breweries were among the most vulnerable companies, many of them relying on taproom sales and the on-trade, which had to close during the peak of the pandemic. And so craft beer production in 2020, during the pandemic, dropped by 9%. Now, the industry largely recovered in the following year.
Well, you remember there were can issues with getting cans.
Oh
can
yeah, there was
shortages,
so
and all
much
kinds
stuff because
going
of all
on.
the supply line stuff and all of that. The industry kind of recovered in the following year, only to find itself facing a new set of hurdles across 2021 and 2022. The supply chain issues that you mentioned, rising operating material costs, and increased competition. The 2024 mid-year survey shows that the industry still faces some challenges. There's been a continued small decline by volume in the market, with the Brewers Association estimating 2% declines in craft beer volume for 2024 compared to 2022. However, brewers, as they're having to compete with all these new canned cocktails, all these other things, in my mind, it's holding its own pretty well. And there are some estimations that craft beer will continue to grow, if slowly, but will be the only growth sector in the beer market going forward. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
It's also evolving because, we were talking. You guys had a meeting at Eighth Wonder the other day. I'm talking to Alan now. They had a meeting at Eighth Wonder the other day, and I laughed when he told me they were going to go do that because Eighth Wonder, they have 7 IPAs, some ciders, and then 1 Vietnamese stout on tap. And that's all they've had the last few times I've been there. And he goes, no. You tell him what was on tap.
Cougar Paw.
Oh, I like Cougar Paw.
Dome Foam.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And an entire
an amber
wall.
ale and a lager.
And an entire wall of THC.
Oh,
spirits.
Eighth Wonder has moved big
into-
into the
yeah.
THC spirits.
So
yeah.
almost out of
We've
beer,
had a few
2
of
beers
those. We've had a few of those for
on tap.
For
Yeah.
our spirits here for the beverage of mystery.
Mm-hmm.
But that's interesting. Now that area is seeing huge growth, and no and low alcohol beer saw volume growth of 30% during 2023.
Yeah.
So that area is growing as well. But the THC stuff, it's really interesting. I have I call him a cigar smoking buddy. He's just a guy that lives in my building. And sometimes when I'm down in the alcove, if it's windy trying to smoke a cigar, he'll wind up down there. And usually I'm like, oh, damn, I should have brought my AirPods because then I could just, ignore him. But no, he's a nice guy. And he was telling me the last time I was down there smoking a cigar with him that he, just for health reasons and try not to gain weight and stuff, had stopped drinking alcohol, but that he had started drinking these THC things. And he says he gets just as good a buzz off of them as he was getting off of the alcohol that he drinks.
All right. I'm starting to see a THC drink episode coming up.
Yeah, maybe like a blind THC taste test.
Maybe. I mean,
Who would be a good person to have on the show for that to join us?
That's a good question.
Well, one of
Tommy Chung.
one of the gentlemen from the social board of directors, and I don't want to give a name away because they may not want people knowing but he got one of the cocktails just to see how it was. It was a cider, and he was like, it's okay. Yeah, and then we were done, and about a half hour later, he sent a text going, wow, this thing packs a
So
punch.
it was a cider with THC?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Because most of what I've seen have been like sparkling beverages
Right.
with THC, right? Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see does this become a huge growth industry, or is it one of those flash in the pan things that kind of, is like Zima, it was taking over the world and then 3 months later it was gone,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Drank is still out there.
Yeah.
That's been out there for quite a few years now. Slow your roll, bro.
In 2024, the number of active craft breweries has edged up from 9,339 in June of 2023 to 9,358. Not a huge growth in 1 year, but growth all the same.
We lost a bunch.
I was going to
as
say,
well.
and you've seen so many that have closed just
Yeah.
recently.
Right.
So that means others are growing up other places.
Beer dollar sales look likely to be static, they said. There's been a continued small decline by volume in the market. And the volume decline is seen across all channels and regions with similar trends across package, keg, and online sales. So it's interesting to me, again, I love when everything's growing and it's boom time and it's exciting. But I will point out that if you look back at the cigar boom in the 90s, when it became all the rage to smoke cigars and people who'd never had cigars were smoking them, and the craze lasted for a couple of years, and it made it really difficult to find, good tobacco during that time because of the increased demand. But when it eased off and the dust settled, there were so many more great cigar
cigars,
options for people who were seriously into it, and the overall level of people enjoying cigars, even when it tapered off, it landed at a higher place than it had been. Yeah. So overall, even though it's not like still just skyrocketing up, it wound up being a good thing for the cigar industry. And I'm hoping for craft beer this will be the same thing. As it slows down, maybe the dust will settle, will level off at a pretty good place where there's still plenty of interesting and exciting craft beer out there, and plenty of new things to try. We can only hope. We'll continue to try them for you here on the program. We'll do more of that coming up. This is Smoking and Toasting, and we will be right back. It's a very Pavlovian sound, don't you think? Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And
this is awesome.
Yeah, well, it's a black IPA, so it should be nice and dark and inviting. I'll tell you about my cigar for the week this week while Ian is pouring, and we're passing around the Loki's Lies black IPA from Southern Star Brewing Company. I enjoyed this week a Crowned Heads Series E Sublime. Now, Crowned Heads is a very interesting cigar company. Founders John Huber and Mike Condor are audiophiles, and they're big music fans, and they have got cigars in their lineup that were inspired by Led Zeppelin, Johnny Cash, Kings of Leon, and more. The Series E pays tribute to the late guitar god Eddie Van Halen, and specifically to a short instrumental track he recorded with his band that changed the way that people understand what guitar solos can be. It is the track called Eruption. I mean, you remember this, right? Of course. You could probably sing it, it's even though it's a guitar solo.
I can't tell you how many times I've taught it.
In fact, if you buy a box of these beautiful sticks, you will notice that the inside of the cigar box lid, the upper inside, uses the same colors and designs as on Eddie Van Halen's
on the
guitar.
Frankenstein stripey guitar,
exactly.
The red and white.
Yep, the red and white. I kind of geeked out a little bit when I saw it, to be completely honest with you. I smoked the Sublime, which is a 6.5 by 54 Toro, and the cigar itself was beautiful too. A deep brown Ecuadorian Habano Oscuro wrapper was draped over a binder from Jalapa, Nicaragua, and the filler tobacco was all Nicaraguan from Jalapa, Pueblo Nuevo, and the island of Ometepe.
I expect that to be spicy.
Which I bring up just because I like saying the word Ometepe. Something about it, yeah. I don't know what it means. I just like saying the word. There was definitely some hay and barnyard on the pre-light sniff and the cold draw. I also got some dried berry and fruit and a hint of brown sugar. I know that's a Rolling Stones, not a Van Halen song. But hey, it's only rock and roll. And I like it. I used a punch cutter and lit the foot of the cigar, and we were off to the races. Surprisingly, not a big punch Nicaraguan pepper blast. I know you had the ukulele ready.
I was ready to do it.
And I know you probably think I'm making... So my last several cigars have not had an NPB. And I know you probably think I'm making that
also
up.
haven't been made by AJ Fernandez.
Well, that's true, and I'll get back to that
which
soon
I'm a little
enough.
confused by.
I promise you I'll get back to it soon enough. I'm trying to... these are not the cigars you're looking for. It was not a big punch Nicaraguan pepper blast, but there was a note of pepper in the mix, along with a lot of earth in the first third, toasted cedar, and I think I picked up a hint of vanilla, which I really like. I like that in rum. I like it in tequila. I like it in cigars. Anytime I can get that vanilla, I like it in ice cream. I'm all about it, right? The second third, the cedar gave way to more of an oakiness, and I got leather, coffee, and nuts, kind of a roasted peanut vibe. Construction was great, and the strength was medium-bodied as I headed into the final third. And then that was where the strength picked up a full notch. Things got spicier, and the Crowned Head Series E Sublime moved into a flavor profile that was more like what I would normally expect from a Nicaraguan cigar. Pepper, earth, coffee, and chocolate rounded out the final third and left a very pleasing sensation on the palate. The cigar finished right at my medium to full-bodied sweet spot in terms of strength. One thing I really should mention is that this cigar is a very slow burner. Don't go for this one if you got limited time to smoke, but if you got a while to kick back, the Series E Sublime is for that. It's when you got a chance to relax and enjoy a Toro that's going to last you well over an hour and a half, at least potentially, which is pretty good. Construction was great all the way through. No problems, soft spots or relights. Strength starts medium, but builds as it smokes until it's medium to full by the final third. Retail price on this baby is just a little over $12, but you can pretty easily find it for more like 10 or 11 if you look. To be honest, I paid less than that for this one, but let's grade it out a little higher. At $12, it barely but does make a 5. At $10, a solid 5. You get what you pay for, and the smoking experience is slow, leisurely, and excellent. Score it cheaper than $10, I'd call it a must-have. It's that good. And yes, in case you're wondering, I was streaming the first Van Halen album in my earbuds while I smoked it. That record is so good, it almost makes me forgive them for the whole Gary Cherone thing. That's how good that record is.
Gary Cherone's awesome, but I don't know about Gary Cherone and Van Halen.
He's awesome, and he was, he was great in Extreme, and he's actually a very talented singer. But that record was just not good. That Van Halen 3 just wasn't good.
Sometimes it doesn't work.
I did see him perform back when I lived in Boston, which is where he's from. When Van Halen was in one of their Nobody's Doing Anything phases, David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar actually toured together. It was nicknamed the Sam and Dave tour. I don't know if that was
Catastrophe.
Well, supposedly they had to erect plywood walls backstage between their areas so they wouldn't come in contact with each other.
Oh, no.
But what was interesting is during Sammy Hagar's set, he had Michael Anthony from Van Halen on bass, and they actually brought out Gary Cherone, and he did a couple of songs, and it was actually pretty good.
Nice,
you know. But they were in Boston, Gary Cherone's hometown. I'm sure they didn't do that everywhere on the tour. But anyway, enough Van Halen stuff. I just I found the cigar really enjoyable. It's just that, man, a $12 cigar, that's a you're competing with a lot there. But I still would give it a 5 at $12. So there you go. You have poured us something to taste here, my friend.
I have.
This is called Loki's Lies. It's from
Loki's
Southern
Lies,
Star,
black
which is
IPA.
Conroe, Texas. This black
It
IPA.
says, tales of the trickster were heard, stories of his deeds, the sly one,
Yeah.
the shape changer, had wicked tricks up his sleeve.
So now our guest today is an avowed non-fan of IPAs, and yet I'm looking at your glass, and you've taken down a little bit of this, Alan.
This is tasty.
Yeah.
And I am, me and Chris Harder, we like a lot of stuff, but we're polar opposites. He's a big IPA fan, and the peatier, the smokier, the danker Scotch, that's not my jam.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
What do you think?
I don't like it.
You don't like it? Really? Now this is so interesting.
Something really off-putting about the aftertaste. I just don't like. It's.
I don't know. The aftertaste is like coffee, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, but there's a bitterness to it that just doesn't jam on my tongue.
See, I don't get. I mean, I get bitter as in coffee bitter. You get a little of that, and I'm sure some of that's from the hops. But
I like
I think
almost
it's quite
everything
tasty.
that happens until the moment you swallow there, and it's
the grapefruit up front on this
Yeah.
is fantastic, and then I get black coffee on the back end.
It feels
and
like
that's-
I forgot to pass Terry's
it
to him.
feels like
so-
things
Well, now I'm so curious about it because
Yeah.
we've gotten such mixed results here.
Did we not pour him one?
No.
I
did.
just
I
forgot
just
to pass it. Yeah.
It feels like a couple things that probably shouldn't go together. You know,
Yeah.
there's something about the. I don't know. It's like if you're gonna make a cocktail with scotch, probably don't use mayonnaise. You know, I don't know. Like, this is not very good to me.
I'm going to go ahead and take away the probably. Definitely. Don't use mayonnaise in your Scotch
Mayonnaise
cocktail.
and scotch. Come on.
But there's no way this is
I've never
equivalent of
heard-
Scotch
I
and mayonnaise.
don't like it. It leaves in my mouth in a nasty.
Terry,
kind
what do
of-
you think?
You know, it is interesting. I taste what Ian's talking about because there is something when you get it in your mouth, there are two different tastes that are after each other, but they seem to work together, and it's not making a bad.
This is not like Reese's.
I
peanut
think when
butter
he
cups.
sees something this dark, he's expecting a little bit different.
Oh, he's expecting a different profile. That's a
different
very good
profile
point.
of it,
That's
you
a
know,
very
on
good point.
that. For
'Cause
his,
you like your stouts and porters, and this is definitely a different flavor.
it is
profile.
not what you
I
expect
like
for
my
something
beer
this
like
dark.
my heart, black.
Final word on this one, Alan?
fantastic.
All right. Loki's Lies from Southern Star Brewing in Conroe, Texas. Their black IPA. And we will be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. think that rum bottles could be a whole new percussion instrument. I liked that very much. That totally worked. Totally worked. Welcome back to the program. Our show is Smoking and Toasting. We are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Want to say hello to our newest markets in Flagstaff, Arizona, and in Charlottesville, Virginia. We welcome our new listeners there. Thank you so much for checking us out. More new affiliates are on the way for Smoking and Toasting. So we're going through a nice little growth spurt here, which is a cool thing. So thank you for checking us out on broadcast radio. We promise to get more affiliates as things move forward a little more. So an interesting list, and this was published a while back in Cigar Aficionado, but it's 10 things that every cigar smoker should know. And this is not, they stress, a list of like a 10 commandments of cigar smoking. This is more just like information to make yourself aware of so you can become a person who enjoys your cigars more. The first is to understand that cigars are a natural and artisanal product. Now, those are buzzwords that are overused and abused in today's language, but premium handmade cigars have truly earned the right to be called both natural and artisanal because they're made of one thing and one thing only.
If you see an organic section, that means it's needlessly expensive.
Yeah,
But they don't have that on cigars. I'm just joking.
Because they are organic.
That's
And
right.
vegan.
And vegan, exactly. But they're also artisanal. It's pure, unadulterated tobacco. Not a single leaf is chemically treated or artificially altered for taste, unless you're buying some of those,
Flavored
types.
and then it will distinctively say
Right.
flavored.
Exactly. Everything from flavor to color on a normal cigar, though, is achieved through natural means, and that is part of the inherent beauty of the cigar. Now, part number 2 on the sort of 10 commandments of things you should know about cigars, that every cigar smoker should know. It is often said that 200 pairs of hands touch your cigar before it makes it to your humidor. So let's hope they wash those hands. But
Elysione had a series called, it was 300 pairs of hands. 300 monos.
300 monos, yeah.
That was their dedication to that.
And it even says here some claim the number's even higher. But suffice to say, by the time you light up a cigar, many, many people with many different skills all contributed to bring you the product
When we
that you're
went to
holding
the
in your hands.
Aladino farm and factory, I was amazed that they can even sell a cigar for less than $10.
For less than $10,
after everything that goes into making one.
You're right. Before we had a chance to tour their factory and their farm and where things are planted and where they're harvested and where they're fermented, I always thought, wow, why are they charging so much money for cigars? And just like you said, I completely understood it after that. Not that Aladino is overpriced, by the way. Their pricing structure, I think,
absolutely. I can't believe that they can sell cigars for anything like less than $10, $12 is my bottom.
Absolutely. We mentioned, by the way, that one of the things they go through, the tobacco goes through, is fermentation, and that's number 3 on the list. Fermentation is common to producers of wine and spirits. It's a process that converts sugars into organic material into alcohol, often with the use of yeast. In the tobacco industry, it's more of a microbial fermentation, one that breaks down the leaf organically through the use of water, pressure, and oxygen. No alcohol is produced in tobacco fermentation, but the process releases heat as it changes the chemical composition and physical traits of the leaf through humidity and oxidation.
They do that a lot of times in a big bundle of leaves called a pilon.
Yes.
And that big bundle of leaves is then turned after so much time.
Right.
To help
distribute the oils and the heat.
Yeah, distribute all that. It's
and
a pretty crazy
I will
cool
say,
process.
One of the things that I thought was the most interesting is I just loved the smell in the fermentation barns when we were in there.
It's weird because there's a big like tea leaf kind of smell.
Yes.
There's a slight alcohol nose or chemical nose to it, but there's a tea leaf smell, and there's a whole plethora of other things that you start to get on the nose. Crazy.
Really amazing. Now, aging is important. That's item number 4 on the list. Aging tobacco plays a vital role both before the cigar is made and after. Not only is the fresh leaf aged before it's rolled into a cigar, but a newly completed cigar in most cases is sent to an aging room where the tobaccos kind of marry and the humidity levels of the cigar can stabilize. And even beyond that, you will find, I have found this to be true, that sometimes I'll get like a box of cigars or a 10-pack of cigars. I'll take them out, I'll put them in the humidor, I'll smoke one fairly quickly, right? and it's pretty good. And then maybe a few months later, after the rest of that 10-pack or box of cigars has been aging in the humidor, I'll go back and I'll go, wow, this has improved dramatically in only a few weeks. And that's what a little bit more aging time in your humidor can do.
I think though that aging time in your own personal humidor is not so much the time. It's the equalizing of the humidity and acclimating to your general humidity in your atmosphere more than anything else. Because sometimes when you get a cigar in from, especially if you get in like an internet.
Right, you buy it online.
You get it in. Sometimes they'll be a little drier, they'll be a little wet, or and once it equalizes in your humidor, then it's going to be more like what you're used to.
Yep, absolutely. And if you buy your cigars from like a brick and mortar shop, they may have been humidified pretty well in their humidor and might be a little more ready to smoke right off the bat.
Right.
But I will say this: if you can find the patience to let your cigars, if you bought them online, sit in your humidor for a couple of weeks, you could be able to tell a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
Well, like when Ernesto makes cigars, he will blend.
You're talking about Ernesto Carrillo.
He will find a blend, something that he really loves down in the DR. And he's like, okay, this is good. Then he takes those cigars, he brings them up to Florida, to Miami, to headquarters. And he will age them there for a month, 3 months, whatever he thinks it takes, because the smog, pollution, the humidity, everything about it is different here in the U.S. and it is the DR. And he needs to know what it's going to taste like and smoke like here.
So is it ever the case that someone like Ernesto Perez Carrillo will come up with a blend at the cigar factory that he thinks is great, thinks this is wonderful, and then he brings it back to the U.S. and it ages a little bit and it's not as good?
Yes, and I can tell you the one cigar, the Inch.
Really?
But it's a different size. So the Inch is one of his foundation cigars. It's a main core line.
Love the Inch.
But a lot of people don't like the big ring gauge.
Right.
So he said, okay, let's see what it's like at a smaller ring gauge.
Same blend.
Same exact blend, smaller ring gauge, where companies like Aroa and some of the others, they start with the small ring gauge and move out. And so all that really does is lighten the cigar a little bit because you're just adding more filler.
Sure.
But he did it the reverse. He blended the Inch at a 60 ring gauge. So he said, man, people love the Inch. Let's roll it at a smaller one. And then people will be happy. So they rolled them, smoked them there. Oh, it was great. They sent them to Miami. They let them age for a couple of months. And then him and David Spirit and a couple other people, Jose Blanco, then they got him out and said, let's smoke. They were horrible. They were absolutely terrible. He said, we can't do anything with this at market. And they destroyed them.
I blame Ron DeSantis. That's just me. Sorry. But that's interesting because I wondered, does this ever go the other way?
Yep.
Because sometimes when you age, a lot of times when you age, things get better. But it may not always be the case.
Here's the thing, too. The things get better is a subjective thing because when a blender releases a cigar into the wider world to fulfill its cigar destiny, he sends that out there the way he expects it to smoke.
Correct.
Right.
He's not expecting you to add extra aging to it. The way he sends it out is a finished product.
Correct.
Right.
And so while sometimes a cigar can benefit a little bit, maybe to your palate, maybe if it's a little harsh to your palate a little bit, you can leave it in your humidor because all cigars are going to mellow a little bit.
Right.
And if you leave them in there too long, they're just going to average out and not have a whole lot of flavor after a few years. It's 4 or 5 years.
What you're saying then is that Howard Jones was not correct. Because Howard Jones said things can only get better.
Well, there is that. Well,
and we digress.
I love that at least made Terry laugh. I just appreciate that. I'm sorry, I'm a child of the 80s.
Do you feel scared?
I do, but I won't stop and falter.
No. What have we done?
We'll get back to I don't know, but it wasn't
the end of the segment.
Yeah, it should be. But we have to taste some rum first. This is we haven't finished our cigar list, but we'll get back to that in a few moments. For now, let's turn our attention to what is inside these little Glencairns that Ian has poured for us. This is Don Pancho. It's Origenes Reserva 8-year rum, and it's from Panama. You have already done research, sir. Your thoughts?
I love this rum.
Panama's another good Van Halen song.
You know what this rum? This rum has a flavor in it that I don't know that we've ever pegged in a rum before.
Yeah,
but it has a tobacco flavor.
Interesting. I'm picking up a little vanilla, which of course makes me
vanilla.
happy.
There's a lot of things in there. There's the oak. There's the vanilla. There's a lot of things. But at the end, after you swallow, it's tobacco.
It's like somebody took the little Red Hots and dipped them in vanilla and fermented them somehow. This is really
it's really nice.
That may be one of the better descriptions we've ever had of a beverage here on the program. What would you pair this with cigar-wise?
Cigar-wise,
something heavy. Something really
it'd have
heavy.
to be something pretty heavy.
La Historia.
I reviewed one of those a few weeks ago.
So good.
I had just forgotten how great that cigar is. That's an EP Carrillo, La Historia, and it's just wow, it's wonderful.
Just all things EPC though.
Yeah,
man, come on.
I would put this. I've had a couple of things that have been very full-bodied recently that I've talked about here on the show. I'm thinking back to the Grey Cliff that was blended by AJ Fernandez. That was so big.
Who is that?
Would go great with this. It's in my contract that I have to mention him at least one time per show.
Well, you're getting paid way over.
So the cigar that I reviewed today would go well with this probably.
Right, because it was big enough.
And that the Rorschach that I reviewed last week would go well with this as well because they're both pretty big.
I'm thinking even like a La Flor Dominicana would stand up, like one of their heavier blends would stand up with this.
Yeah, the double Lajero.
This is absolutely delicious. It almost reminds me of like something you could pour on waffles.
It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah.
And it does. It has maple syrup. It has so many different things. But it also has that tobacco note to it.
Tobacco, maple, some oakiness, and vanilla.
Yeah. What's the cost on this bottle?
It's about a $44 bottle, if I'm
stopping at specs on the way home.
Yeah,
See, look at y'all. Influencing purchasers.
Smoking and toasting.
Francisco Don Pancho Fernandez has handcrafted the world's finest rums for 50 years. Originally from Cuba, he learned the art of rum making. He learned the art of rum making. He's on lost in translation there. From the legendary maestros Raneros in the 1960s. Now at the age of 75, Don Pancho is celebrating his career with the best rum he's ever made. This rum is Don Pancho Origenes, the Origenes. The 8-year-old Origenes Reserva is unmistakably a Don Pancho rum. The exquisitely smooth and deep flavor reveals candied dates, figs, dried plums, and old leather. None of us said any of that. But tobacco and vanilla and...
By the way, I don't remember exactly what I paid for it, but just a quick glance at the internet, I see prices between, here's one at $87, here's one at $29.99. So
watch where you buy it.
Yeah, watch where you buy it. But yeah, you can find this rum, and it is well worth that $30, $35 price tag.
The bottle looks great.
Yeah, it does. It looks like if you set that on top of your bar, people are going to go, "Oh, that's one of the expensive."
It's a classy bottle.
Yeah, it really is.
I
dig it. I'm going to drink more of it while we take a break, and we will return in just a few moments. Drinking News is right around the corner. Plus, we still got to bring you another 5 of those things you should know about smoking cigars. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And
rum.
I will just point out that during the break, Ian refilled us all with more of the rum, which is good. I want to go back to my list here of 10 things that every cigar smoker should know. Alan actually was starting to talk about this a little bit when we were discussing this a few moments ago. But number 5 on the list is understanding cigar anatomy, and that a cigar is made up of 3 major parts, obviously the wrapper, the binder, and the filler. The 3 form the smoking system, and it all kind of fuses into a single organism called the cigar. The wrapper, as you know, is the visible outer leaf of the cigar. It's also generally the most expensive leaf, as that's the one that's going to impact the flavor the most out of everything that's in the cigar, right? And it needs to be fairly pristine in appearance as well as flavorful. If the leaf's too veiny or rough in texture or has a lot of blemishes, it's no longer categorized as a wrapper. Now, the binder could be considered a wrapper that didn't quite make the cut, right? It's often the same tobacco as the wrapper, only not maybe as smooth in appearance. And it doesn't really have to be because you don't see it. It's covered by the wrapper. Binders the leaf tobacco directly underneath the wrapper. It holds the filler tobacco in place, hence the name. The combination of or the combustion rather of the binder is critical as a good burning binder will only help the filler to burn more evenly. So that's a really important thing. We often focus on how the wrapper burns, but the way the binder burns can even be more important to your cigar actually burning correctly.
It's the inside of the system, so to speak.
And then the filler, of course, is where the cigar maker can be the most creative because you can use several different types of tobacco in combination and various, tobacco from various leaf oriented places on the tobacco plant. Yeah. So good construction, however, is key and should never be marginalized. A cigar that isn't made properly will not draw or burn properly, and it drastically affects the taste and level of enjoyment. And I'll just say this: as I've been smoking cigars for a number of years now, one of the things that has gotten almost to be the most important thing to me about a cigar is how it draws.
The draw.
I'm so over smoking cigars that you have to really, really work to get because the flavor's never as good. And so I am not in any way afraid to use a cigar poker when I smoke. Now I have an actual cigar poker, and it's a really thin little pointed thing that you can use to poke holes. And then sometimes that doesn't quite do the trick. So I also have an old ice pick that has been retired to my cigar thing, and it will poke a slightly larger hole. Right. And sometimes that is all it takes to get a cigar that would have been a struggle to burn wonderfully.
I don't have an actual cigar poker, but I use a check tool, a pipe tool that has the poke in it, and that's what I generally use. Like the draw on a cigar, like effortless is nice. Light draw. Even a medium draw is fine, but anything more than that gets a little frustrating.
Okay, we only got to one during this segment. We only got to one of the things during
this
segment. But it is interesting. So let's just mention cutting and lighting like a pro. Handmade cigars don't come ready to smoke. You have to cut the head or punch it and then light it. Different types of lighters and cutters are open to preference, but some basic rules are universal. Cutting too much off the top of your cigar is a no-no. What's too much? If the wrapper of your cigar starts to unravel after you've lopped off the top, you've probably gone a little too far there.
The top of it also referred to as the cap.
Yeah. Normally there's a slight taper at the head of the cigar, and you shouldn't really go below that line is the sort of standard rule. I like using a punch. I also really like using a V-cut. And I'm in the market for a good V-cutter. If anybody knows of like a really nice one, I've got a little plastic one, but I'd love to have like a really good, what we say?
Calibri. Best V-cut on the market.
All right. I will go check that out. And we'll take a break and be right back. Guess what, folks? Drinking News is next. It's Smoking and Toasting. All right, welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And speaking of fine spirits, this rum is just really wonderful. I'm enjoying this.
Pretty good.
And it's really good because we're about to do Drinking News. And as you know, Drinking News is where we bring you a story from the news somewhere. It's not from a parody site. It's from the news somewhere that has been reported and that is often, but not always, about drinking, but is always best enjoyed if you've been drinking. And
we have.
I have and will continue to, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Well, with Drinking News this week, we refer back to the now completed Olympic Games. Although I'm not a huge devotee of the Olympics. I will admit. I do still root for the American contestants. And quite honestly, this year it's been impossible not to get caught up in all the excitement over Simone Biles. That woman is amazing, and no human being should be able to do the things that she does.
Yeah.
But there she is, and she absolutely rocks.
Yeah.
She's been very enjoyable. But beyond that, this year's Olympic Games have been even more interesting to watch because of a certain, let's just say, emphasis on what the French would call, because the Olympics are in France, right? What the French would call un ballet. Or what that might sound like if they said it in English would be the package. That's right. The package. You know, the twig and berries. Or old Frankie and the boys. 2 marshmallows on a stick. Do I need to go on?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay. This year's Olympics have gone viral in a bigger way than ever this season, with clips that have a lot to do with Mr. Johnson and the Hardy Boys. That's another genitalia reference there, in case you're not paying attention. It started, of all places, in the judo competition. Judo, the martial art whose core philosophies are good use of energy and mutual warfare and benefit. But this year's athlete from Georgia, the country, not the state, this year's competitor from Georgia, Guram Tusheveli, added a philosophy of his own. After losing pretty handily to the judo athlete from France, Tusheveli honored the Frenchman's performance by kicking him in the nuts. Good old swift kick in the direction of Willie and the Nads. The video, of course, is in fact the kind that could break the internet, and it might. I haven't checked it in the past few minutes. The Georgian Jukoda, that's somebody who does judo, was disqualified, and the French guy will be okay. He just needs a moment to catch his breath.
But the problem is, once you catch your breath, the pain sets in.
That's not my purse.
That's, of course, not the only package-related story from this year's games. You may have already heard about this, but it's just too amazing not to include it here. The French pole vaulter, 21-year-old Anthony Amirati,
He's a pole vaulter.
was executing his maneuver perfectly,
Wait till you hear what he used.
vaulting his body up and over the bar. On his way to an almost certain Olympic medal, he clears the bar, and on his way back down over the other side, a part of his anatomy snags on the bar, clearly not only touching it, but flopping in a way that suggests that it was maybe not that different from a kick in the nuts by a judo guy. More importantly, though, what you see in the frame pretty clearly suggests that what this Olympic pole vaulter is working with may be a little larger than yours, sir. And even, as tough as this might be for you to believe, mine.
Don't things look larger on TV?
Sure, I've had my times when I would embarrassingly bump my package up against an end table and knock a lamp over. Hey, that's not always enough clearance, you understand. But I've never stuck my pole in the ground, pushed upward to clear the bar, and made it, only to be disqualified from winning because my penis touched the bar. That's never happened. Of course, I've also never even pole vaulted in my life.
I get that not everybody's a winner,
that could have something
but there's
to do
got to
with it.
be something for that.
Anyway, the video is a must watch. Just search Olympics and penis, and you'll find it right away. Hell, you can probably just search Olympics, and it would come up at the top of the page. So, yes, this year's Olympics are exciting, and they're inspiring, especially to me. And as we all know, even if we pretend not to, when I get inspired, I have a tendency to express myself.
Wax poetically.
Yeah, in the form of the written verse. You know, poetry. Could I get a little poem reading music, please? And it goes a little something like this. An Olympic pole vaulter from France was denied a good chance to advance. He had just cleared the bar when it happened. Bizarre. Foiled by the huge thing in his pants. Reporting live from the Olympic Village in France, where I'm trying to come up with a witty reply to, hey, is that a pole vaulter's bar in your pants, or are you just happy to see me? My name is Cruz, and that is your...
Drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all.
Oh my goodness, I'm supposed to go and pole vault, but I haven't done anything with this cucumber I was going to eat. Let me put it right here.
I'll tell you, that video is a must see. Like, don't even worry about like what it means that you want to see it. You have to see it. You just have to see it. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, there's got to be like a medal for junk in the trunk, right?
Well, I'm telling you this: that dude is way more famous than if he'd gotten the gold in the pole vault. And I'm just saying, you know,
And the sponsorships rolling.
yeah,
Listen, he probably has that conversation at night with himself. You know,
Yeah.
listen, you cost me the gold. That
Yeah.
was great, but you know, the ladies.
Yeah. But hey, it's gonna be what it's gonna be.
There's gonna be a beating.
Yeah.
There's going to be an OnlyFans
That
page.
What he lost in a gold medal, he'll make up for with an OnlyFans page.
I forgot to hand you the beer for
That
this
is-
segment, Ian, and that's one that's going to require some work on your part. So I'll give it to you now while we're still going here. All right, while you're doing that, let me go back to the guy with the huge penis in the pole vault. No, let me go back to
in the
this,
penis vault. I mean,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, let me go back to this
Just be
article.
careful how you search that on the internet.
You are correct, sir. Yeah, so the 10 things every cigar smoker should know. We only got through number 5. So let me see if I can get through the rest of them here very quickly while you're opening that up. Cut and light like a pro. We talked about that. So that was actually number 6. Number 7 was smoke cool and slow. Some cigar smokers puff too often. This is a mistake for a few reasons. Philosophically, cigars about enjoyment and savoring the moment. So smoking fast kind of runs counter to that whole sentiment. Take your time and slow down. But there's another reason as well, and that is if you try to smoke the cigar too fast, if you're puffing too hard on it, you're going to make it smoke a little too hot, and it's not going to have the same flavor. I'm fascinated watching you trying to get. Oh, you got the wax off.
You know,
Nice
I got my.
You're a semi-professional at this.
Oh, it was hiding back here.
You had your bottle opener.
My bottle opener was hiding from me.
Well, this is.
It didn't want to fulfill its bottle opener destiny.
Ian's about to pour us a beer that is an Imperial Stout called Moussetropolis. It's a barrel-aged Imperial Stout from Hatfield, Pennsylvania, and the Imprint Beer Company. We have never had a beer on this show from that company before, so I'm excited to try it. We're always excited to try new things here. So let's see what this works. We're passing this
It
around.
looks delicious.
Passing this around. And in the meantime, number 8 on the list, choose your cigar wisely. It's important, the guys here on the Cigar Aficionado article list here say, to know something about the blend before you choose a cigar. It helps ensure that you don't choose a smoke that's too strong or too mild for your taste. Most smokers know that if they want a strong, medium, or mild cigar, that strength and body refer to the cigar's inherent intensity. You can smoke a cigar that's full of flavor, but not particularly strong or full-bodied, meaning there's still plenty of finesse flavor that won't impact the palate too heavily.
If you're not sure about that,
Yeah.
ask your tobacconist.
Yeah, they love to help out
They
in
are
things like
super helpful with that. Their
And-
job is to find something you love because they want customers.
And one of the things they're really good at is if you have had a cigar before that you really liked, but you want to try something else, tell them about the one you really liked. And they can very easily say, oh, if you like that, here's a couple of other options
I
for you to
really
try.
like the It's a Boys.
Yeah. Number 9 on this list, and it's so true, Cubans aren't always the best. You know, there's a mystique applied to Cuban cigars, and Cuban cigars can certainly be
You
fantastic.
can only get good beer in Germany.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same kind of. It's the same
Yeah,
kind of
right.
thing. It's the same
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, and there are great Cuban cigars that are legendary.
And one of the whole reasons that I wanted to, but they aren't all.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean that's it. I mean, there's great Nicaraguan cigars.
Yeah.
you know? I will put up a 45th anniversary Padron against almost anything.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. The last item on the list, number 10, I was excited about because it's something we talk about on the show here all the time. In fact, we have our own scale for this. It's price versus quality. Price.
They're stealing our jam.
Yeah, price isn't always an indicator of quality. A cigar that costs $30 won't always be more enjoyable than one that costs $10. And in many cases, one that costs $6 or $8.
Yeah. You can find great cigars across all price points. Bourbon's very much the same way, too.
And Cigar Aficionado goes on to say that inexpensive cigars sometimes score better than the pricey ones in their blind tastings. And that's true. I have totally seen that happen when I have read the article. So no guarantee you're going to love the expensive cigar. If it's an expensive cigar that's been around for a while, at least you know that some people have been willing to pay that, and maybe there's something going on there. But not always the thing. So this is another case, as Ian said, talk to your tobacconist. Tell him, what can I get for, I'm making up a price, $8. That might be as good as something that's 12 or 15.
Yeah.
You know? So
Those are Goldilocks zones. I love those.
before we run out of time in our segment here, let's talk about this beer, Moussetropolis.
Barrel-aged Moussetropolis, barrel-aged Imperial Stout with chocolate hazelnut mousse and cream cheese.
Wow, that does taste like mousse. It really does.
Oh my
It
God,
smells
that-
amazing.
Chocolate mousse.
That is straight chocolate mousse.
Oh, that's actually just dessert.
Mm-hmm.
Can you? That's coming in at 13%.
It doesn't come off
13.5%.
quite that boozy, actually.
No, you could taste a little something in there, but it's
Yeah.
not like, it's not. I mean, this over ice cream.
Oh.
It actually tastes a little bit like melted ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you had a.
With a little bit of liquor in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's totally there. All right. We're going to talk more about this when we come back in our final segment, but holy moly, this is good. This is almost like a dessert beer. It really is.
This is fantastic.
It's like
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back and talk about it more. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And after drinking our final beer, after tasting our final beer on the show today, I can't imagine how the craft beer industry could be in any kind of trouble. Because this, my
So
friends,
good.
is so freaking good. It's just absolutely. It is like, you've heard of dessert wine. This is like a dessert beer.
It's pretty amazing.
It is Moussetropolis. It is from the Imprint Beer Company. And I was wondering in our closing moments here if you'd had a chance to go back to the rum.
So I went back to the rum. It took out a lot of the vanilla,
From the rum?
but the rum was still good.
Yeah. And then what about when you go back to the beer after that?
I didn't pay attention because,
rum.
I get more chocolate, almost like a gritty cocoa vibe when I go back.
yeah, it takes
to,
out some of the vanilla. There's a lot of good sweetness still in the rum. Going back to the chocolate now.
Mhm.
Oh, it's just brownie batter now.
Yeah, it's that gritty
Yeah.
sort of chocolatey cocoa.
Where you haven't quite blended in the sugar just
Which,
yet.
isn't that awesome, by the way, when that happens? I love that. Well, this is just a really amazing beer. It's an amazing rum. I don't know if it's a great match for this beer, but it is an amazing rum.
No, I wouldn't say let's have this beer with this rum as a back. I'm sure you could match a good bourbon to this to this beer though, and make it pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm thinking it wouldn't even have to be, one of the more expensive cellar bourbons. Just a good, solid,
Elijah Craig.
Yeah, Elijah Craig, Buffalo Trace, something along those lines.
Wild Turkey 101.
Wild Turkey, baby.
101, baby. Yep, that would work.
I'm going to point this out there. If you really like good bourbon,
Yeah,
you like Wild Turkey. If you
yeah.
don't like Wild Turkey, you're not a fan of bourbon.
Okay, I think it's a fair thing to say.
So Randall Sullivan, who was might still be Chris isn't with Prideful Goat anymore, and but Randall Sullivan will.
Boy, do they make a great rye. Let me just say.
The
tell
rye.
you
That
what.
Prideful Goat
Outrageously
rye
good,
is
yeah.
so
Oh,
good.
it's delicious. And Randall Sullivan is a fan of saying, if you don't like Wild Turkey 101, you just don't like bourbon. Because it's,
I'm living.
is it something extra special that you want? No, it's just quintessential.
It's just right
It's
down
what
the
bourbon tastes like.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. No, it's a perfect incarnation of that, and it's a really good thing. Well, a couple of interesting things coming up on the show. Ian, anything you want to telegraph that is?
We're working on getting
weeks ahead?
Angels Envy in here soon. We're going to have.
Oh,
it on
that's going to be an
location.
awful show.
I don't have dates on that just yet, but
I don't want to
let
be
you
here
guys
for
know.
that. That's going to be terrible.
It's going to be the worst, right? Angels Envy is going to be so good.
Oh wow, that's
and
great.
we're working on some on location as well to get outside and sweat a little bit because actually I'm going to try and find some inside venues for that.
Yeah, we might, but a place where we can go and smoke. That'd be good.
Well, I mean, some days it's cooler than others. Some
Yeah.
days it's 98 degrees instead of 100.
Some days it's diamond, some days it's stone.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed to admit that I
Also,
know
when
that
the
reference.
humidity goes down by 2%, it just stops raining.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good thing. We will be talking about on upcoming shows the best tequilas under $40. Excited to get to that one because there's a lot of great tequila under $40, and it'll be a good thing to talk about. Plus, the best-selling craft beer brands of the year for 2024. We'll talk.
Oh, nice.
Take you through a list of those too. So, a lot of exciting things to come on the show. Alan, of course, we do love to give you a hard time here, but you're welcome on the program anytime. It's
I
always
know.
a pleasure to drink with you.
Oh man, it was a great time as always. We thought we were going to do a double crash today with Chris Hart, but
Yeah,
we ended
yeah.
up last minute couldn't make it.
So, anything you want to say? I know you're still involved in the whiskey social. Anything you want to say
Socials
about?
coming up November
about that?
16th.
Yeah.
We still have VIP tickets available.
This is
GA
here in our
tickets
hometown
available.
of Houston, and as we've said before on
Yeah.
the show, it's worth coming to Houston for.
If
Yeah.
you're going to be in town, you want to buy a ticket.
Yeah.
If you're from somewhere where you have the leisure or just the extra money to go do something fun, fly into Houston and do this.
You wouldn't believe the different countries people have come from,
Yeah.
different states,
I know.
cities. They come from all over Texas to come visit this. thewhiskeysocial.com. You find us on Facebook.
It is a world-class social.
It's really well done. And by the way, if you want to come and hang out with Ian or me, we'll be there. We'll be at the cigar tent smoking and occasionally
And
running inside to
toasting.
grab more things to toast with. So we will be smoking and toasting. So that's something that we can all look forward to. And the date again of the social?
November 16th.
November
Saturday.
16th.
Hey, we heard all the people that talked about Biker Rally, and we heard all the people that talked about opening day of hunting season. So we moved it back 2 weeks so it doesn't conflict with any
anything.
events.
Okay.
Yeah.
And plus it's right around that time that we start all thinking about holiday parties and stuff.
Yep.
Well, and the weather here, you might think, okay, well, won't it be cold?
Nope.
No.
No.
Actually, it'll be perfect outside to smoke.
It's
Yeah,
110 degrees out here because of the humidity today.
Yeah,
it will never be cold here again.
You know what I've decided I'm never going to look at again? The feels like temperature.
Feels like
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Because that's just
It's-
just enough to make you
it's
like
98 degrees. It feels like your face is melting off.
exactly.
I just popped up my app and it says 97 degrees, feels like 107.
That's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
thank you. That's
I'm
what I'm
not-
saying. You can't look at that
I
anymore.
didn't make that up. Just in case you were, I didn't make that up. That 107, 110, that's been happening
That's what I'm
every
saying.
day for the
you
past.
can't keep looking at
week.
that. It's just not. It's not going to work.
It beats you down before you even go outside.
That's right.
I'm glad you said that. I'm going to remotely start my truck so it cools down.
Oh, so you're
Oh,
Mr. Cool.
smart.
Like I have the world's
Look at
smart
that.
truck. Yeah.
I'm doing that
Is
right now.
your truck shaped like that Elon Musk thing? That
No,
Oh, those are
mine is
fun.
what you call a pickup truck.
yeah. Oh, okay.
I hope it can't reach from here, Mr. Hoitity Toitity.
Unless you're giving one of us a ride home, in which case we're all about it. Yeah, we're all about it. Well, thank you to everybody who's been a part of the putting together of today's program. And we mentioned big thanks to last week's special guest, our smoking and toasting wine expert, Thomas Marsala from 13 Celsius. We will have him back
That
on
guy was
here
awesome.
was
before
great.
too long. The music for the Beverage of Mystery is called The Visitor by Shane Ivers at chosic.com. And because he allows us to use that royalty free, we like to make sure that we recognize him. Other musical segments on the program are from various artists and bands who've allowed us to use their music as well. And I was mentioning this in between one of the segments, but we need to get some songs from your current band on for our bumper music.
We can do that. I will make
would be
sure that
fun.
we follow up with that soon.
Because that's
I also have a really old band that we don't have any music from there on there. I can pull up some of that.
okay. Well, I'm all about it. We should.
I'll submit
We
it
should
for
be-
bumper approval.
Yeah, we
Also,
should
you
be
could
adding
just
to
make
them.
some ukulele songs.
That's
current.
true. You could just
That
do
would
a
be
little
great,
ukulele
yeah.
bumper music.
That would-
Don't stop.
If you did "Don't Stop Believing" on the ukulele, I would totally use that for bumper music.
New show opener.
I really want to hear you do that little guitar, the guitar lick that's like singer in a smoky room. That would be a lot of fun.
Neo-san. He kills it.
Which, by the way, just because we're in the closing moments of the show, I'll just mention that I saw videos about how this big rift in the band Journey had apparently been healed over. And the guys were talking with each other and talking about getting together and playing again. And then 24 hours later, the rift had reemerged. So for those of you who are Journey fans, sorry.
Dude, how many walkers would be out on that stage?
Dude, have you been to see the Grateful Dead lately? They're the Grateful Barely Alive.
The Grateful wheelchaired out.
Yeah.
Wait, come on. Isn't there only like really one of those guys that's the original?
The only
that's
original member is the guy that drives the tour bus.
Yeah, it's like I always say about Foghat. I believe the triangle player is an original member. Have a great week, my friends. Thank you for smoking and toasting with us, and we will be back here next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Until we meet again, my friends.
Cheers,
Cheers, y'all.
There I go, and I've been told I